Now, as time goes on, we're going to see how embedded many of these sports leagues are with gambling due to the fact that the sports media rights bubble is beginning to pop. And make no mistake about it, ESPN's parent company, Walt Disney, and their battle with YouTube has a lot to do with it. The main part of their fight was ESPN trying to actually control of where the audience actually gets to watch the content, as YouTube wants one interface where audience members log in and they get to see all their games no matter what platform they're on. And this fight is a big deal because this is going to hinder ESPN's ability in the future to actually monetize and justify the large amounts of money they keep giving the NBA as well as many other sports leagues year after year. ESPN/Disney try to force YouTube into a cable-like business bundle model, while YouTube is really trying to save money and kind of make it more convenient for customers. For those of you that are watching the visual version of this, check out Disney's flywheel and how much companies that they own, but yet they're still not $1 trillion company. But the fellas over at Awful Announcing had a very interesting discussion on some of the nuances that took place with this Disney versus YouTube deal, as the tide is starting to change on the audience's tolerance level of not necessarily having their sports. The PR spin on this was very interesting, especially in these times when a lot of people are very economically conscious. But again, this was a great discussion, and we'll tie this in on how the leagues really are going to be relying on gambling in the future. So the money is truly going to be worth the headaches. But first, they talked about how YouTube won the PR battle of this, even though some fans were without their NFL games.
Like, it's tough to know the true winner without knowing all the financial details, which is what a lot of this comes down to. My inclination, though, even without knowing the financial details, even without the ingestion and the bundling options, is that YouTube won this just from a PR standpoint. And the fact that they did win this from a PR standpoint makes it a victory in and of itself. Like, whenever these disputes happen, as a customer, my inclination is to blame the distributor, is to blame whoever I am paying my money to that is not giving me what they promised. I'm like, just get it. I'm giving you money. You gave me a promise that I'm going to have ESPN available to me. Do whatever it takes to get ESPN available to me. And the fact that the PR battle on this one was so lopsided toward YouTube TV that you had, anecdotally, I have friends who are diehard football fans who their weekends and their schedules revolve around watching football. They went 2 full weekends without access to ESPN. They were willing to go a third. Like, I don't know where it would have stopped. Like, it did not seem like YouTube TV, which is maybe the easiest to cancel distributor there is. It did not seem like they lost a significant amount of subscribers while not offering their, one of the key offerings in all of cable television. So I think just the fact that they were able to go toe to toe with ESPN and win this from a PR standpoint, I think that's like the biggest win in all of this.
And that was something definitely that did not go unnoticed. There was a tolerance from the audience to miss out major college football games as well as NFL games in order to keep a discount. There is an aura of uncertainty over there down in Bristol, Connecticut with ESPN because they have spun into having their own app, but it's not really a guarantee it's going to pay full dividends right away. They also try to get into the whole gambling sector with ESPN bets, and that really didn't pay off. I kind of went over that in my Patreon why, because there was a little scandal involving the company that they were working with, and I believe they struck a partnership with either FanDuel or DraftKings. So the gambling money does serve as a layer that's kind of upholding the current sports media at the moment. But as the controversies continue to pour in, and if the PR gets bad enough on it, you're going to see these guys either cling on for dear life, or when they let it go, we're going to see how dire that money is coming off of that cable bundle business to the subscription model. And we're already seeing it. Many of the former ESPN behind the scenes people are now working with the athletes in their podcasts. There were so many layoffs, and even their pay structure right now. Some of their most coveted personalities are very highly paid, and everyone else is pretty much flatlined.
A lot of what YouTube seemed to want was with the understanding of what the future is likely to look like, which is that they will be the biggest service. And that's probably true, almost assuredly true. And so I almost, of course, if Disney got them to come down a little bit or whatever, then that in the negotiation we're covering right now would count as a victory for Disney. But long term, YouTube's going to get everything that they were asking for. It's just a matter of time. And so from that standpoint, like, I have a hard time even giving a tick mark in either column, because YouTube's right that they're going to be the deciding force in the future of all of this stuff, and the way that the finances work for it, for Disney and every other content company in the future, which I think does kind of bring us to the ingestion side of this, because that's a big part of why. And, YouTube is basically neck and neck with, I would say, Prime Video, probably, as far as striving to be the home for all video content. Now, those businesses are different enough where even saying that is a little tough. But the reason I compare those two is because they both are ahead of the curve, being this place where these channels exist and this in-service content from other companies can be watched and accessed, right? And they did it with Peacock, as Drew mentioned. Now they're doing it with the ESPN app. Either way, on Prime Video, you can watch everything from, HBO Max to League Pass from a portal housed on Prime Video, right? NBA League Pass. Now on YouTube, they're building up something similar.
That's not a good thing for ESPN. See, they want to control the audience and control that data, which is worth a lot of money. And if they don't have that control, or they have to fight for it, it's going to limit their ability to monetize their NFL content, the NBA content. And by the time the negotiations are up and they're trying to get new deals, they're not going to really offer more money. So there's going to be a lot less partners for the NBA to leverage other entities that are trying to get the leagues on their quote unquote networks. And that lack of bidding wars may affect the price. So this is why we're seeing Adam Silver and many other sports leagues still clinging on to that gambling money, regardless of the scandals.
They can give you direct access to WWE pay-per-views and Sunday Night Football, right? And, I think that is the future. That seems like the business future. And if I worked at one of those two companies, that's how I would be pitching it, because customers do want consolidation and ease of access and an interface that isn't, irritating. YouTube has user-generated content. Amazon has rentable movies. Like, there are differences. So, we'll see how that all sorts out. But my question is, like, do you know anybody who uses those things? Is that actually with the future of where this is going? Like, have you ever met somebody who goes, no, I don't have Peacock. I use it on YouTube. I just don't know if that's actually like where the customers are saying the future is with their actions. Here's the problem. Like, so you look at Disney, right? Separate from this YouTube, they are also trying a version of this, right? Where Disney Plus is increasingly becoming this home for all things Disney, whether that's, again, Monday Night Football, or it's, Abbott Elementary, or whatever you might be wanting to watch, ABC Nightly News. Like, they want it all to be there. But one, that's not nearly enough stuff. You're never going to convince somebody to only ever spend time on Disney Plus, right? So, like, I just don't think that that's going to get the job done for the average person.
Unless you're fucking, 60, 70 years old? That might be a good look for you. But other than that, everyone else, there's just way too many options out there. That's going to be another interesting thing going forward, is how ESPN will now compete against other entities. Even their former on-air personalities have now become their competition. Very interesting landscape. Even the back-end people that used to work behind the cameras, behind the scenes, doing production, producing, even they're working with the athletes in their own podcast. So everyone's competition now.
But like, the other difference here is, like, and why this YouTube one was so fascinating is, to me, like, back when cable was the place you went to watch stuff, it was understood that company, who you might, want to go, scream at the secretary for, but, like, they were just for that. They just were the thing that gave a signal to your home to watch the content you wanted to watch, and they gave you a box and a remote, and that was that. Now YouTube is both, right? Amazon's trying to be both. YouTube is a place where you go watch your favorite vlogger, but also your cable company, and also this place that had an NFL game last month. Amazon, same thing. It's Thursday Night Football, it's renting movies, and it wants to be the place where you also go to. And so I just don't, I think that there is like a little bit of average person resistance to that also, because it's like, hold on, I'm paying you how much? And now I got to do more. And I got like, you are just like my overlord now. I don't know. Maybe that is a little bit of a step too far in terms of trying to kind of mind read the average person and this anecdotal way of talking about this. But
also with the average person, I guess we're all dealing with a lot of these tech companies are looking at these cable-like subscriptions as almost add-ons. It's not a real full service to them. They don't treat it that way. It's not like they have a dedicated customer service line that's 24/7 like the cable companies would. That's not their main expertise. If they can, we all know they're going to put AI and chat bots to deal with any sort of technical issues. But for the most part, that is not their main business. They're treating these sort of in a way like how some of the stubborn restaurants that didn't want to do online ordering and the pandemic hit and all of a sudden they were down to use it. It's sort of like that when it comes to YouTube and Apple. That's how they're treating some of these sports leagues, especially Apple with the MLS. It's almost like a side piece, like, oh, we have to do this. This is like a little tease to get more people to come into our business. And in a way that puts the sports leagues in a very interesting place. The fact that even Netflix, they have a boatload of cash, but they only want the marquee games. So the NFL, the NBA, the NHL, many other sports leagues, they kind of gotta still have to do a temperature check with the tech companies to see where they're really at with the sports league, because this doesn't seem like a real full commitment.
But it's clearly the source of friction between these companies, because it's one thing if Disney just has to say, here's how much you're going to pay us to put ESPN on those boxes that you give to people. It's a different thing when it's like, you want to have our service within yours, but you're also our competitor on some types of content. You know, I don't think that these companies are going to play nice with each other to deliver that future to us, even if the average person's education that we're kind of talking about eventually comes around. I don't see that happening. I just don't see that happening.
Yeah. I think where this gets really interesting is kind of when you look at the market for live sports rights. And I know right now we're kind of in a bit of a lull where there's not a lot available, but eventually, you know, the NFL is going to come up. The NBA is going to come back up in 10 or 11 years, Major League Baseball in 3 years, as with NHL. So there are deals around the pike, right? And I think if you're looking from a Disney perspective, right? Like, obviously these rights are existential to your business. So you're going to be willing to pay more than a YouTube TV would or an Amazon would, because without these sports rights, you essentially do not have the leverage to demand, you know, such high fees from the distributors, right? So long as Disney and Fox and NBC can afford to pay these exorbitant live rights fees, the cost of doing business for the distributors, which includes YouTube TV, are going up, right? Like, I don't think YouTube TV is going to go and bid on top of Disney just because, you know, like they want to own the content. Like, I still think it's probably a better deal for YouTube TV to you know, get the license the content essentially from Disney for its service. It's just kind of a matter of how long can these companies afford to continue to pay more, because in the interim, the price of YouTube TV, the price of your Xfinity bundle, the price of Charter, whatever, it's all just going to go up, right? So YouTube is playing the long game, like you said, Brendan, and like that's kind of where these deals are going. The game for Disney is kicking the can down the road as long as possible, at least the way I see it. You know, they want to get as much of the consumer data as they can, keep their pure play streamer, as, you know, Disney Plus or Hulu, independent from YouTube TV for as long as possible, because then you're able to drive more revenue and then purchase more expensive sports rights and kind of keep the cycle going, right? Like, but I don't think there's a future in which Disney is going to be able to compete with the financial might of Google, right? Like that's just not in the cards. Yeah. So it's kind of a shitty time for consumers because it means, until these companies, end up consolidating or folding or, something extreme happens, prices are just going to go up.
Yeah, because, Disney as a content, producer in the previous generation, it was lucrative enough to put movies in movie theaters and put content on cable to sustain an entire business. It's not anymore. And so here we are where we're trying to kind of find what's next. And yeah, I think that the places that house the content right now seem to be what is going to be the king of the playground for this next era, and Disney doesn't appear to be one of those. So yeah, they're kind of caught right now.
And Disney/ESPN are far in the weaker position because not only they're the content producers, which is the most expensive part, Google and YouTube already has the audience. They already have the infrastructure with the ads. And even though they do have the large pockets, it doesn't necessarily mean they're willing to spend money on these leagues. They can actually outbid ESPN, but it's starting to become very apparent that they don't want to necessarily get into the customer service business side of just being a cable distributor. But again, these are interesting times, and we're seeing what's coming down the pipeline for Adam Silver and the NBA, as well as the many other sports leagues, because when those contracts come up, it's not really a guarantee that that money is going to keep climbing higher and higher. So they're going to keep on going down the rabbit hole of gambling and everything that it comes with, especially that underworld that always has played a major part